Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Diogo, and I'll be guiding you through today's webinar on how ZoomInfo drives 24 times faster intent into action with SingleStore. We're glad you're here with us. Before we begin, here are some important notes. This session is being recorded, allowing you to revisit it anytime. We'll share the link to the recording after today's presentation. To maintain clarity, all participants have been muted. However, please don't hesitate to ask questions. Simply submit them using the Q&A feature, and we'll cover them at the session's conclusion. Akmal will respond to questions during the session, so feel free to ask it away. Queries specifically for the ZoomInfo team will be answered at the end of today's session. Join us this Friday for an engaging webinar on crafting multi-agent AI applications using AutoGen. If you're intrigued, I'll be sharing a link here in the chat, or you can conveniently scan the QR code displayed on your screen right now. To all participants in today's webinar, an exclusive offer awaits. By either scanning the QR code or clicking the link I'll be sharing in the chat to try SingleStore today, you will be in the running to win a pair of branded AirPods Pro. Don't miss the winner announcement at the close of our session. So let me introduce our speakers today. We have Ganesh, he's the engineering manager at ZoomInfo, Kannan, senior software engineer at ZoomInfo, Jeff, director of customer marketing and analyst at SingleStore, and Akmal, our senior technical evangelist at SingleStore. So, all right, let's dive in. Jeff, you're up first.
Okay, thank you, Diogo, and thanks everyone for joining us. So I wanted to set the stage a little bit by talking about the market here where ZoomInfo competes, large and growing markets. So first of all, looking at ABM, Absolute Research says that this market will grow to 3.1 billion by 2028. The growth, depending on which observers you listen to, is 10 to 20%, and through 2030, it looks like. Future Market Insights says that the sales platforms market will grow to 193.1 billion by 2032. And Forrester says that global spending across MarTech will exceed 215 billion by 2027. So again, a large and growing market. We're excited to have ZoomInfo with us, and this is what we're doing. So let's talk about a few things. First of all, some of the basics, MarTech and sales tech. Of course, all about selling in real time, about real-time data, fast insights, simplifying the infrastructure and supporting high concurrency. And I called out a number of things on the right side, but I really want to drill down on one really quickly, and that's multi-tenant, multi-tenancy. It's a really important thing for a lot of our customers because a number of them, they started out, they were growing their businesses, getting more customers, and they were excited about, their growth. And then what happened, the excitement turned to terror or anger when they would maybe add a new large customer, and it would either take down or slow down the other customers they already had on their apps. And so they've turned to SingleStore to be able to tackle that problem and keep everyone's apps up and running and at top speed. So that's one area that's really important. Of course, analytics and attribution, of course, all of the marketing automation functions, and then content monetization, which is in terms of some of our customers sort of crossover between MarTech, sales tech, ad tech, but also into e-tail and e-commerce. And so we'll talk a bit more about some of these things as we go, but those are some of the key points that we look for here. Now, we do power some of the leading MarTech and sales tech platforms. ZoomInfo, there you see Heap, product and customer journey analytics there. They've been acquired by Content Square, and we're glad that our system is helping them to accelerate the integration of those organizations. Outreach. HeyLink is sort of a textbook example of what I mentioned a moment ago about crossing over between MarTech and AdTech and across into e-tail and e-commerce. And so that's an important one. Factors AI, end-to-end marketing analytics and attribution. PLG with Inflection. Leads RX, you see there, and Segmetrics, very interesting customer journey time series analytics. So very interesting applications. We have many, many customers in the space. These are some of what are really top ones, and that's who you see here. So I wanted to take a step back though, because we want to get to our ZoomInfo friends and speakers here. But I want to say, what is SingleStore, right? Just take a few minutes. So we're a distributed relational database, unified database that can process transactions or OLTP, analytics or OLAP, and vector in a single data store without moving data, a unique combination of row store and column store in a single engine. So in terms of transactions, we have our in-memory row store. You get fast writes and fast record lookups. We're a distributed SQL database, so as your needs grow, you can scale horizontally just by adding nodes. Analytics, we have our column store, universal storage for high-performance analytical queries and large-scale aggregate functions. Speed is in our DNA. We deliver millisecond latency to our customers, and you also get 80 to 90% data compression ratios to keep your storage costs down. And a lot of customers are really benefiting from that with us. In terms of contextualizing the data, this is where AI really comes in. Now, I'll talk more about this in a moment, but we've had vector capabilities since 2017, and we have many customers using our vector functionality to drive Gen AI apps. We also have notebooks that let you run Python code along with SQL on top of the database. So, the bottom line is a single platform for transactions, analytics, and vectors. We say 10 to 100x, and candidly, we're seeing thousands of times faster performance for a lot of our customers at 1/4 to 1/3 the cost. We eliminate unnecessary data movement and reduce cost and complexity. So I wanted to talk a little bit, first of all, about our patented universal storage and things like our fast ingest and change data capture. One of our SingleStore platform features is pipelines for high throughput streaming ingestion. And so you can ingest millions of events per second from distributed data sources, things like Kafka, Azure Blobs, S3, Google Cloud Storage, HDFS, and many more. So you're able to bring in millions of events per second and query the data immediately as it arrives. There's no need to have a separate analytical database and move the data. You can manage it all in SingleStore. Now, another aspect is not just a unified database, but also a multi-model database, relational, right? So obviously we support structured SQL, but we also have native support for these other data types, as you see there: geospatial, full text search, key value, JSON, time series, and vectors. And so in addition, you also get the freedom to run anywhere. We have customers running on AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, on premises. We have a number of customers running hybrid cloud and on-prem. So the bottom line is that you now have a single data engine to ingest all of these data types and mix and match as you need to drive your real-time applications and analytics. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time here on this one. I just want to touch on a few things. Again, our patented universal storage, whereas traditionally you get a column store or a row store. With SingleStore, you get our unique table type that combines the best of both. So you can process transactions and analytics in the same engine. Obviously, speed and our DNA, of course, as I mentioned, that's due to our 3-tier architecture, your in-memory row store, your disk-based column store, and your cloud object store. SingleStore pipelines I mentioned for fast ingest, unlimited, or we call it bottomless storage, and things like our SingleStore Kai MongoDB API that are powering up to 1,000 times faster analytics on JSON for our customers. Wanted to just dive into vector functionality, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. So, I said we've been doing this since 2017, and we have. And I just took a step back and wanted to walk through. Let me look at some of the many use cases. This is not an exhaustive list, by the way, but they're just some of the more interesting ones. And so I broke these out into like core. So some of the things people think of right away, like semantic search, we have customers doing that. ANN, facial recognition. We've got image search and object recognition. Then I sort of broadened it across verticals and across platforms. We've got people doing video monitoring and surveillance. One really interesting customer use case has organizational insights that are customized around role and function-specific KPIs. An interesting one there. One of our customers is using Gen AI to drive STEM education. Of course, mobile apps and chatbots, which you would guess. And at least one of our customers, maybe more, is tackling high volumes of unstructured legal data and using our vector functionality in Gen AI to do that. One of the interesting things here is that, we've had some industry observers talk to us about the fact that, well, it's really going to be your smaller companies and mid-size who are going to be your early adopters for Gen AI. But, we do have a lot of those too, but we also have some very, very large customers and globally recognized names using us in Gen AI, like Siemens, like LiveRamp, like Thorn. And I broke out the last category. I broke out financial services and fintech because, the very first customers that we had with the vector functionality back in 2017 and 18 were some of the world's largest financial institutions. So, you know what, we're happy to be serving customers across the spectrum with these capabilities. And some of the things they're doing today with us in financial services are, risk management, basic core to their business, and identifying the best prospects and a lot of the other functions there. So I just want to take a minute to note that. But now we want to focus on MarTech and sales tech and what we're here to focus on today with our customers ZoomInfo and around their go-to-market solutions. So Ganesh and Kannan are going to be speaking with you, and I will turn it over, I think, now to Ganesh.
Hey, hi. Thanks for this opportunity, Jeff, and SingleStore team. So this is Ganesh. I work as engineering manager at ZoomInfo. So this is a small introduction about me. So before jumping onto the journey, how we came into SingleStore, right? So I wanted to give a short background about ZoomInfo. So can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. Next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so ZoomInfo offers modern GTM platform with which companies can engage their next customer across channels with softwares powered by real-time insights and data. So why ZoomInfo? With ZoomInfo, companies can win faster by scaling their go-to-market ecosystem. They can create workflows to automate customers' outreach without the need for the complex tech stack. And customers can engage their customers. They can have a unified platform to connect the sales and marketing team, and also they can unlock more insights about their customers, because ZoomInfo being the leader in B2B data and intent, so they can kind of get more powerful insights in real time. Okay, so again, here in the right side of the screen, you are seeing some survey data. So which shows that account executives seen increase in their win rates by 46%, and also they seen a decrease in deal cycle time by 37%. And there is an increase in quota attainment by 53%. And all the teams end up in using fewer tools while driving greater alignment and efficiency. So this is little background about ZoomInfo. Okay. So next slide. Okay, so websites is primarily taken care by my team. So a small again introduction about websites. So websites is one of the powerful products / a feature offered by ZoomInfo to take action on companies exploring our customers' business websites with our B2B visitor identification software. So as part of this software, we need to serve near real-time analytics to the customers on high volume data. So our traffic pattern will look like reads will be like 10 RPS typically on an average, which comes from the customers viewing their analytics data, and writes would be like around 2000 RPS, which comes from customers' website that is getting tracked. Websites data occupies around like 8.5 terabytes of storage. And currently, like we are processing around 2 billion records per month. And also we are kind of in the process, or we are rolling out the PLG motion for websites, which is our community version, and it's a free version. So with that, say like the expected growth is 6 times than what we have today in a year. That's what we see. So next slide, please. Okay, so the current challenges or the challenges which we face, right, like with the websites. So we were with Google BigQuery, which was our previous data store for that is powering websites. We kind of ended up in higher projected cost with the growth that we are expecting. And our P95 latency was ranging between like 5 seconds to 26 seconds, which gave like which gave a very little or poor experience to our user experience. And to handle the concurrent writes, we were using streaming inserts in BigQuery, which restricted us from performing real-time updates to the tables underneath. And also we kind of had an max cap of concurrent request at 100 RPS that can be made to the BigQuery instance. So these are some of the challenges which kind of bottlenecked from expanding our use cases with WebSights product. Yeah, next slide, please. So these are these are the specific key requirements that we were looking for. Okay, so first thing is fast cloud analytics platform to provide quicker results and also real to near real time analytics without any significant delay between the event occurrence and the data shown to the customers. So which means the delay has to be very minimal, and no cloud vendor lock-in to have flexibility for future to kind of migrate to a different database or different cloud vendor, right? So those flexibility we need. And also like we need to support like high concurrent reads and writes as we see like 6x growth that we are expecting because of the PLG motion and the natural growth that the organic growth that we are expecting. And also and with that said, like we with all these things has to be coming with a very lower cost, so the TCO has to be lower. So these are our objectives while we look for the alternatives to BigQuery. Okay, over to Kannan. Yeah.
Thanks, Ganesh. I'm Kannan. I'm a senior software engineer at ZoomInfo. So I'll be talking about why we chose SingleStore against all the other columnar databases that we did POC with. The first and foremost point is distributed database. SingleStore being a distributed database, it is easy to add nodes and scale horizontally and reach other tables if needed. And the other thing is pipelines from Google's cloud storage. So we are a GCP first company, and most of the services are in GCP today. And then cloud storage being our primary data storage for object storage. SingleStore reading from pipeline was a very good objective or feature that we were using today. And large table join supported. So we did POC with multiple columnar databases. They had constraints with joins. Like either joins were not at all supported, or if they even support joins, either they had to be like a reference table, which means that data of the table you're joining has to be in the same node, or the table needs to fit in memory. Since we had some large tables that we had to join with, those columnar databases did not support that feature, but SingleStore did. The other thing is immediate updates after it. So as Ganesh mentioned, BigQuery did not allow us to update the rows immediately after inserts. It had like 30 to 40 minutes time cooling off period, where after that only we'll be able to update those data. But with SingleStore, we did not have that constraint. We can immediately update the data right after the write. And the minimal code changes. SingleStore being a MySQL protocol compatible database, and BigQuery also supported ANSI SQL. With this migration, we were able to use most of our code base and then SQL queries that we were already using, with just changing slightly syntactical changes. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the architecture with SingleStore on Google Cloud. So today, a user, when visitor their customer's website, the customer website makes an API call to the backend. And then from the backend, we make a message to the PubSub, which is the event bus provided by GCP. And then from there, we fan out writes to one to the streaming data flow. And then we write it as a cloud storage and in cloud storage as Parquet files. And we use SingleStore pipelines to read the data from the cloud storage and then insert it into the table. In another fan out thing, we write it to a BigQuery. Next slide. Performance comparison. So to give like what is list queries and dashboard queries, right? So assume a list query is like a table view where you have like multiple columns. So we have to fetch a lot of data points to represent that table. And then the dashboard query is being like data shown in the graphs and charts. So with this, in BigQuery, P95 was 26 seconds. And then with SingleStore, it came down to like 1 second, which is like 25x improvement. And then with the dashboard queries, in BigQuery, it was taking around 5 seconds. And in SingleStore, it came around like just in sub-milliseconds. Next slide, please. So what ZoomInfo achieved with SingleStore is like With the single store, we are having like 24x faster response times. And then the total cost of ownership came down to 1/4. So we are 75% lower than the total cost of ownership. And then 8.5 terabytes with BigQuery has been like compressed and stored at 5 terabytes in single store. And then we are like future proofs for the 6x growth. And with this, I'll hand over to the Jeff to like talk about the key features we utilize.
Yeah, sure. So we just a couple of the features the team talked about, and Ganesh, if you have anything to add. Obviously, we've talked about single store pipelines for ultra high speed ingestion. And of course, that's what you need if you're going to enable streaming analytics, real-time analytics. Our workspaces feature gets back to the multi-tenancy I was mentioning before, separating compute, isolated and secure access for each of your end customers. And then the stored procedures, views, and functions, complex error conditions. Anyway, all updates through the pipelines. And so it gives you full flexibility as well as all the speed. And if you guys have anything to add on that, that's fine. Okay. Great. So just wrapping up on this. So again, we couldn't be more delighted to be working with ZoomInfo and be the unified data engine as a foundation of what they're doing. As you see there, an OLTP, OLAP, we spoke about this, high-speed ingest, data transformations, and also I didn't mention before, but caching layer, which so many of our customers are able to, again, reduce complexity and cost by getting rid of the caching layer that they used to be using before SingleStore to kind of speed things up, and they don't need that anymore. And just a quick mention of a future webinar. There's a lot to cover today on this, the websites, and we appreciate Ganesh and Kannan speaking about that. A future webinar, be on the lookout for it. ZoomInfo has also replaced Sisense with SingleStore for another mission-critical app, which is a customer-facing analytics app. And on that one, they're achieving about 70 times faster analytics performance. And then sort of zooming out a little bit, this is positioning them to accelerate customer acquisition and retention through PLG. So in a moment, I'll hand it back over to Diogo, who will take us back through some of the other things we're inviting you to do with us. And then we'll get through any other questions that we may have had along the way. So Diogo, I'll back over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Just to remind everyone that this Friday we have an upcoming webinar on how to build a multi-agent AI app with AutoGen. We invite you, if you like this topic, to scan the QR code right now. I'll drop the link again here on the chat so you can register for this upcoming webinar happening this Friday. And then just a reminder, we have the AirPods Pro raffle happening right now. So if you scan the QR code, just for this last 2 minutes, I'll announce the winner after the Q&A session. If you want to learn your way, SingleStore is always offering $600 in free credits. We also have our free share tier, so you can try our platform. But if you want to learn a little bit more about SingleStore, we have an entire website for the documentation. So if you head to docs.singlestore.com, you will see everything related to our product. If you want to engage with your peers, just go to singlestore.com/forum. There are a lot of people there engaging and sharing their experiences with SingleStore. You can watch our YouTube channel. We have a bunch of videos there, previous webinars, training sessions, etc. You can go to youtube.com/SingleStore. And then the last part here, if you would like to take some training, just go to training.singlestore.com.
Okay.
So, yep.
No, I'll let you handle that, Diogo. Sorry. Jumped in there.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll give everyone like 1 minute or 2 minutes so we can start replying. Otherwise, we can go ahead and share the winner of the raffle. Let's just give everyone like a minute or so, Jeff.
Sounds good.
Yeah, just whilst we're waiting, Diogo and Jeff, maybe I can ask Kannan and Ganesh a question. So I think you mentioned you evaluated a number of other products in the market. Obviously, I won't ask you to name them, okay, because that's part of your internal evaluation process. But could you say something about how much better SingleStore performed relative to those products? I mean, were you seeing sort of orders of magnitude performance difference, or was it sort of smaller?
Like I don't remember the exact numbers on top of our head, but it was like 2x to 3x better performance.
Okay. And in terms of the cost TCO, the total cost of ownership, I think if I remember, you mentioned that you're seeing much better in terms of return overall. I mean, from a business perspective, I guess that's important. The technology is great to a point, but business users tend to look at money and how much things are going to cost to run overall in the long term, and that's a kind of an important factor for them as well.
Yeah. So with this SingleStore, we came down at to like 1/4 of the price that we were supposed to pay for BigQuery and projected cost. So it was a huge win
Quarter.
for us.
Okay. That's pretty good in terms of overall saving. Wonderful. Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, that bears out some of what we're seeing across other customers. One of the other things that ends up happening often, and I'll just pose this question to Ganesh and Kannan, is what we see a lot of times is our customers will say, okay, this is great, and we'll reduce cost, and the speed was incredible and all of that. But that it also did a couple of other things. First of all, it freed your team to focus less on data infrastructure and more on, your next important business building app, right? For example. And maybe people will say, well, we had a backlog of things that we wanted to handle for a year, and we just had to stop thinking about them on our previous platform. So is there anything like that you've observed that we're going to enable you to build new products, maybe focus more strategic and less on handling data issues that you'd care to share? Would be pretty interesting for the group.
So as Ganesh said, we had a high latency P95 latencies, right? So we might get customer issues reporting that they were not able to access the applications, or the applications were very slow. And then if multiple customers try to access their data at the same time, it would cause like very even slower responses times. With SingleStore, with faster response times, we are like now not getting as many as customer issues that we used to have like back in the day. And so that's also a very good improvement on us.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
And one more thing I want to add is this pipelines are like kind of very cool actually. Like it reduced it reduced the amount of work like a double. I mean, with BigQuery, like we need to kind of write some custom data flow or this thing, right? Like, but pipelines are like very faster and easy to kind of handle, and I would say it's more developer friendly as well. So that is one cool feature like which I would kind of recommend for others as well.
Well, that's good to hear. Yep.
Yeah, Jeff, I see a question. This is from Carlos. He's asking, and I'll quote him. He says, "How can data be synchronized in real time between ZoomInfo and SingleStore?"
So how is that working?
We don't like ZoomInfo data. I'm not sure like what is Zoom like what they mean by ZoomInfo data here. So SingleStore is powering an application inside ZoomInfo called WebSights. So that data is like resides in SingleStore. We do have like B2B data that's in a different database, but SingleStore powers like one of the applications inside ZoomInfo.
Okay. So basically, I mean, SingleStore is the repository. You're just simply accessing it, and it's running the queries for you, and wherever it's residing in terms of the cloud. So people submit their queries, and that eventually ends up running on SingleStore. If I read this correctly, and there's no kind of synchronization. You're not storing something separate that has to sync with SingleStore.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
No,
hopefully, Carlos, that answered your question.
Yeah, hope so. Yeah, and that's one of the strengths is that we minimize data movement, which minimizes latency, complexity, and all of that inside SingleStore, and then ZoomInfo and its end customers as well are able to access the data very quickly. So we appreciate that. Is there anything else, team? I think, maybe Diogo, maybe we want to, unless the team has anything to add, maybe we'll bring you back in and we can announce the winners and all of that, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
All right.
So the winner of our AirPod raffle is Sanchin Raj. I'll email you today to collect your information and send you the brand new AirPods. I'm going to drop here in the chat as well the winner. I want to take this time to thanks everyone for sharing your knowledge today, and thanks to everyone for joining and asking great questions. We will send you the recording so you can revisit any part you want. Hope to see you again in our next webinar. Have a great day.